Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone. So welcome to this EIC, Catapult Your Dreams, I think is a very nice title. And I think the EIC, this is a little bit what this is about. High energy, aiming high as well. Let's see where it falls. But we have with us the core of the Advisory Council, of the European Innovation Advisory Council. Mark and dear members, very welcome to this panel. I must say we are all quite curious and excited to hear you tell us how you think the European Innovation Council will make a difference. Will make a difference not in 2021 or in 2022, will make a difference now, because the European Innovation Council is of course the main novelty under Horizon Europe and will be fully rolled out as of 21. But with Mark now leading the Advisory Council, Jean-David Malo, Director of the EIC Task Force in DG Research and Innovation, in a joint operation with the EASME agency, with the REA agency, and of course with DG Connect. In fact, we are up and running now. And that is a small political and administrative miracle. And I must say I'm really very, very proud of that, also on behalf of Carlos Moedas, because this is really his vision, the risk he took as a commissioner, and Mark, with your rebels around you, you will now make this a reality. So there are many innovators in the room which are wondering how the European Innovation Council can really help them. So let's try to be a little bit practical as well. I'm sure this is what you are aiming at doing, so that as we run through the calls in 2019 and in 2020, some are open, you are all certainly aware of that, we can effectively test how we are agile and impactful on breakthrough innovation. This is really what the European Innovation Council brings in addition to the toolbox which you are using today, which remains available, but brings in addition. And in particular, how do we find you as breakthrough innovators? And what we are aiming at is not only breakthrough technologies, this comes with it obviously as well, but I think ultimately what we hope to do is to disrupt markets and maybe also disrupt society and bring it along with us on these transitions which were discussed yesterday and today, the social transition, the economic and the climate ecological one. And this is where the innovators in Europe can and will make a difference, and the European Innovation Council is, I think, a very visible and very powerful component of public policies to support it at member state level and in this case at European level. So risk-taking, finding the right breakthrough innovations, impacting on markets, on society, is something which we are doing already, I think, collectively, but the EIC will bring it, no doubt, to the next level, and the Advisory Council in particular will help us bring it to the next level. So, over to you for the moderation, and again, thank you so much for being here today, and we're looking forward to an exciting discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, please. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ingmar Hör. I'm your moderator this afternoon. And I replace Niklas Bergman, who had to catch a flight, and he apologizes. So I will do my best to jump in and moderate the session. So we just start with a short movie.
What we want is to pick the people that are willing to do things. And so I think that the EIC is definitely not more than that. It's about freedom of the innovator at the center.
That's when we applied for the EU funding, because what we saw is that, great, if we do everything that we focus, we can potentially take this product to the market, but we will be completely stagnated for the future. What we applied for is money to make it so that we can bring this in the perfect condition to the market, not barely, but perfectly.
Okay, so happy to see the Commissioner Carlos Moedas. And Carlos started this thing, the EIC, 2 years back. So I'm Ingmar Hör. I was in the high-level group from the very beginning. So we all are involved in the EIC. So we are somehow not neutral. We're really pushing the things forward. And when we started the things 2 years back in our group, we were coming to Brussels and not really knowing what's going to happen. But then there was the spirit of Carlos Moedas himself and his team. And he was really telling the first thing, he can't stand it any longer to see that Europe was missing the digital revolution, the digital business for years now. And he wants to make Europe come back. So the slogan was, Europe is back. That's all about that. And what's also there, that we were not really telling what we missed. We were really talking about how to make this happen, because we were all sure about, in the high-level group, we can make it in Europe, because we are really good in lots of things. We have a good research. We have good and outstanding engineering. We have great talents and brains and good motivation. We just have to bring it back. And how to do that. So this was the spirit, and we had a lot of course, discussions, controversial discussions, but it was the spirit which was really launching the EIC from the very beginning. So I was part of it because I was launching my own business, a biotech company in Germany 20 years back, a long time back, from a university lab into a unicorn, and now in a global business, collaborating with a lot of US pharma companies, collaborating with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates investing into us as well. So I think it's the way to go, that we really get a chance, if you see a chance somewhere in a lab or somewhere, to just take this, not publish the paper, just going out, take the innovation into business and do something for humanity. So I'm pleased today that we have the new board members of the EIC all here. And I'd like to introduce the board members, or maybe much better, you introduce yourself. So we had a meeting yesterday, which was very good, very powerful. Very happy to have you here. Mark, maybe you introduce yourself. And also, everybody, what do you think about the EIC? What's your personal vision for the EIC to make this happen?
Very good. So I'll start off. I'm Mark Ferguson, and I'm honoured to be the chair of the advisory board for the EIC. And I think, in a nutshell, the European Innovation Council needs to do for innovation what the European Research Council did for research. So we need to put innovation central within Europe. We need to have great excellence. We need to have a smooth pipeline in taking ideas all the way from inception through to scale up. We need to provide finance, we need to provide networking, and we need to make sure that the schemes within Europe work smoothly together in order to achieve that. So I'm very passionate about making sure that the European Innovation Council is about excellence in innovation. What does excellence in innovation mean? It means crowding in private finance. It means return on investment in terms of the companies growing. It means good networks. It means financing going across national borders. And it means, above all, putting the entrepreneur at the center of what we do. So in a nutshell, that's what I see, and I won't say anything more. I'll hand over to Valeria to introduce herself and say a few words.
Thanks, Mark. My name is Valeria Nicolosi. I'm a professor in chemistry in Trinity College Dublin. It's a pleasure to be here today, and it's also a pleasure to be part of the board of the EIC. I see this as a great opportunity that Europe has, and as a group, I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to shape the new program. Why? I'm a scientist. I work at the university. I won 6 ERCs, and there's nothing better than seeing how research can be translated from the lab and upscaled up to the real world. Now, who works in university knows that sometimes this translation and this upscaling, it's very, very hard to do, because there are no many ways to do that in a university environment. The support might not be designed for that. So having something like the EIC, who can catapult our great research, the great research that we do in Europe, and upscale it It's actually what was missing, and it's something that is very, very highly needed. So what I hope is that we will manage to do in the AIC is to make a program that is very dynamic and understands all the issues that we need to solve all the way through. We can have enormous impact. We are very, very good at research in Europe. We need to start leading the innovation. We have a lot to fill. We have a lot of competitors across the globe. And this is our challenge. Do what we are excellent at and translate that excellence in innovation.
Yusuf.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yusuf. I am the founder and the CEO of LG Sonic. LG Sonic is a global company to reduce chemical in the water sector. We are active in 52 countries. So the AIC, for me, it's the freedom to the innovators, and I am one of the innovators. So I will try to represent the innovators in the board. I will try to see what are the needs we really have and what are the challenges we are facing before we can scale up. I did face my company a lot of challenges before we went global. So I will try to be connected with the innovators. And for that, can we see how many innovators are here? Can you raise your hand? Yeah, yes, there are. So I will make sure your sound will be heard.
Okay.
Heidi.
Hello, my name is Heidi Kakko. I come from Estonia. Estonia is a country with the highest number of unicorns per capita. And that all has happened in only last 10 years. How? It's a miracle. Not only the miracle, but also the very hard work of entrepreneurs, of innovators, but also a very good development of the support system that we have been happy and able to establish within those last 10 years. Now we have even higher aims. When I think of the EIC, I think of the public responsibility. I don't know how many of you know that actually the venture capital market in the United States was also kicked off by the public sector. That was only 60 years ago. In Europe, we don't have yet that history. But I see that the public sector has to be the catalyst if there are inefficiencies. Definitely, we have some inefficiencies in the market in Europe. The first is the lack of funding. My aim and my contribution in European Innovation Council's advisory board would be to help to turn EIC to the best value-add investor. I have been investing in early-stage startups for the last 10 years. So I see a lot of gaps, and I know how to bridge those gaps.
Thank you very much. So very happy to have you all here. And also, we like to receive your questions in a while when we just discussed the topics right now, and I'm very happy to answer your questions. So when we were working with the high-level group for the last 2 years, there were many topics to cover at that time, and we really had to focus and to concentrate on action points. This was very important. And of course, we were aware that we have to build an ecosystem in whole Europe to align Europe and align the member states, which you know it's not that easy to align everybody, but it can happen when we have a common goal. So in the action points, what we were working on, there was a slogan called Europe is back, fast. Fast means F like funding, finance. You already, Heidi, told about that. It's very important. We all know that. How to do that. So very happy that there's now 3 billion committed the next 2 years, which is a lot of money. But of course, is not enough money. It has to be more money to go ahead here. So we discuss the F, funding. The other thing is the awareness. So aware about, where we are strong in Europe, where we can build on, what is our weakness. And we can also, how can we aware in the member states how to synergize? Because there's a lot of action in every state there, but it should be synergistic to the EIC. And the EIC does not really want to overrule the member states, but it really wants to support the actions in the member states as well. So how to run the awareness? The A. The S, like scale, Yusuf, you already told it, scaling is the most important thing, as we already have heard last week from Monsieur Macron, that he's going to invest, or he made to invest 5 billion into French tech late stage. It's exactly the scaling thing. We have to scale to be really then self-sustainable business and to run the show. And the last thing, I think the most important thing is the last thing here, but the most important thing to all of us is talent. To work on the entrepreneur, to work with the people, to support the people running the things, not to consult the people, to make the people really to drive it by themselves, because they know best, as we all know from entrepreneurship, they know best what to do and how to run their business. So we discuss on this fast, and maybe we should just start with the F, and I want to have everybody talking on F because it's so important. So maybe we just start from this direction, Heidi. Maybe, again, what means F?
F is a very nice letter. In venture capital, in startups world, there is triple F, there is quadruple F. The triple F is usually the first source of funding for the startups. It's friends, family, and fools. Usually, I wouldn't call anybody who believes into an entrepreneur as a fool. I would call it him or her as a fan. So the fans that believe into the innovators, that believe into the entrepreneurs. So funding. I have said already that there is not enough funding in Europe, and that is true. If you compare the amount of capital that has been fundraised by the venture capital funds and also by the startups in Europe, if compared to the US, then these differences are enormous. It doesn't mean that building a company in Europe is any less expensive than in any other places in the world. It's as expensive as anywhere. And we lack funding. As said, the venture capital market in Europe is significantly younger than in the States. And probably also the investors in the States are significantly more aggressive. And we can also see that the investors from Asia are more aggressive. So, what does it mean for Europe? It means that the money defines pretty much where the jobs are, where the wealth is created. If we want Europe to be strong, we need more funding. So, in Europe, we see that we can actually catalyze. We can be a catalyst to fundraise enough money for the best talent. I would say that the most important thing is that the money is accessible to any talent anywhere. So that it also means that the very early stage money, the pre-seed seed money, has to be available on spots locally, on a national level. Because very often it's easy to get the small amount funding from the business angels that usually only invest very locally. But if you have already that first stage, that first funding, above that, friends, family, fans, then it's time to scale up. And for that also, a lot more money is needed. So if we summarize the funding part from my side, then definitely we need more funding. And every time I talk to startups, they say, we just don't want the money, we want smart money. And every time then I think, okay, the smart money. Nobody really wants to be the fool money in the startups. But the smart money means that you need to have all other components in place, the network and the ability to open the doors. There is a lot of money in the world. How can we turn the European money to be the smart money with the help of other components that we want to add to that money, so that we can say that the European money is the best value add money?
Okay, Yusuf, how you attract investors, how you got money into your company?
There are two important things. There is a lot of money on the market, but only for specific categorized SMEs. So once we become successful, there is a lot of people standing in the line to invest in our company. Mm-hmm. But if we will look back when we started, when the risk was very big, we needed every time to raise a little bit of money, and nobody believed that we could do it. We wanted to control the bacteria by using ultrasound, and nobody did that before. So the question is not if there is a lot of money on the market, because there is a lot of money. But the question is this money are you able to use that money for high risk, high gain technology? And I think the AIC, we will try to fulfill this gap, but by thinking also big. So what we will need from the innovators also is to think big. Give us the big market opportunities where we can invest in, and not the small improvement on the technologies. That's a big thing we need to do. So from our side, we will try to provide that high gain, high risk, and from the innovators, please think big. If you would like to build a big company, you need to start thinking big.
Yeah. Valeria, from the EIC perspective, what do you really need to start a business from the labs of a university in terms of money? What can be a boost here?
Well, it was touched upon before. In a way, at university level, at research, when you are a lab rat and you have great ideas and you have had great research funding and you have actually had this key output, it's a jungle to navigate. And a lot of the times is actually, the hard bit is actually to convince investors to give you small bits and bobs of money to actually allow the high risk, high gain. A lot of the times what we actually do, especially from highly prestigious research grants, is highly disruptive research. And this is not incremental. This is something that is extremely high risk. And this is something that investors are not willing to put their money on, because it could be a huge flop. So I think the funding needs to be made available for all those brilliant minds out there who actually have been taking the risk and have had these ideas and turned them into practical results, and how to translate those into the market. This is actually what is currently missing, and this is where the EIC can actually start filling the gap quite substantially.
Right. Mark, you're so much experience, you're heavily involved with deep tech, I think the whole lifetime maybe.
Yeah.
So what's your aim for the EIC? So what's really the action points here? What we should do first in terms of financing?
Very good. So I think that it's really important to think about what is going to be distinctive about the EIC and where we can make a major contribution. And one of those is in finance. So if you look at the figures, last year the United States invested $38 billion in venture capital in essentially high tech, and Europe invested $6 billion. So that's the annual gap. The annual gap is $32 billion. If we succeed in the European Innovation Council in leveraging the funding, and let's take the number of 10 billion in the new program, and say we leverage that 5 to 1, which would be very ambitious, 3 to 1 would be kind of average, then that would be 50 billion more, in inverted commas, into European investment. And if you annualize that, it was about doubling what the current European investment is. That's ambitious, but it's nowhere near where we need to go to close the gap with the US. So that's the first thing, leveraging in money, leveraging in other investors. I mean, we want to be in there at the beginning, and therefore we have to have very good deal flow. And I think there's great deal flow through the European programs. There are fantastic people in the European Research Council. Many of those get a proof of concept grant. We need a very smooth transition with the program managers to pick those up and bring them to the EIC. There's fantastic work being done in the missions that are starting off. Some of those will have commercial potential. They can be pulled in. There's fantastic work going on in the EIT, all those groups of innovators and so on. Again, they can be pulled in. And then there are all the national programs. So this is phenomenal deal flow. So what is then one of the other missing ingredients in Europe? One of the other missing ingredients is the experience of the program manager to do deep due diligence. So somebody who really understands the sector and where the boundaries are and is not using surrogate markers like the age of the entrepreneur or their experience or what have you, but real expertise. We need to have such people so that they can manage a portfolio. So then what we build is a reputation. We build a reputation for excellent technical due diligence. We build a reputation for a pipeline that succeeds more than it fails, and that it gets really, really high-value companies. And let's be clear, not all of them will work. It's the pipeline that's important, the portfolio, and some of those good ideas won't work out, but more of them need to work out. And if that happens, then people around the world, investors will say, hey, we need to see what these people are doing because they've got really interesting technology. So I always say the two programs that entrepreneurs are jealous about all over the world, if you're not in the United States, is on the one hand SBIR, which is a US program, and on the other hand DARPA, which does these kind of deep tech missions. And I think the European Innovation Council is a very unique blend almost of DARPA and SBIR. That's the kind of vision to really push the innovation and to push the ecosystem and to push essentially very good technical due diligence, and importantly, to leverage in the best people and the best ideas and the best money from around the world. So just like the European Research Council, we want the best innovators, we want the best venture capitalists, we want the best systems people, and in turn, we have to provide the best administrative system so that you can move smoothly from a research idea through to startup, through to scale up, and then eventually into the other European funds at the top end, InvestEU, the European Investment Bank. Those are people who can provide substantial sums of money in order to scale really innovative and important businesses. And I think that's very important for the future of Europe. I think there's a huge amount of innovation. The potential is enormous, and we just need to capitalize on it. 10 billion would be a good start, but it's not enough, and we need to have a very good track record in order to be able to justify where we're going forward in the future.
Yeah, it should crystallize money flowing into deep tech from a lot of resources and sources. Valeria, coming to awareness. So the European Research Council is a flagship. It's really well respected. People are proud getting the grants from that. So in the high-level group, we discussed that we want to be equal. You know, we want to be really also a flagship of innovation in Europe. So what do you think how we can do this from the ERC? How we can work on awareness, become equal to the ERC at least?
Well, the ERC has actually built a reputation, and the branding of the ERC is very clear. It's about funding excellence, excellent scientists and excellent science. So this has been very, very clear. So we have to be very, very clear, I think, here from the very, very start what the EIC will deliver. The EIC will deliver Europe being competitive, because at the moment, if we look at what we do and how we translate our research, we are not even in the world map. Asia and the US are killing us. And we cannot let this happen, because it's a pity to let this happen. It's disgraceful seeing the amount of amazing research that is actually coming in Europe and being developed in Europe from people based in Europe. So I think we have to be very, very clear that this scheme is about filling the gap, and is about putting Europe back on the map and being competitive.
Exactly. It's very important putting Europe back on map and also synchronize with the ERC and the EIC. So it does not exclude each other. I think it should really synchronize and work each other. I think it's also important that we connect, and also with the other programs from the member states.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The one thing actually needs to be supported by the other. I'm a 6 times ERC awardee. I have a starting grant. I had a starting grant. I have a consolidator grant. I've been awarded 4 proof of concept grants to bring developments in my research closer to the market. And as a researcher working in university environment, it's a little bit of education there that you also need to develop as well, and support. And that's what the EIC can give, is support as well. As a researcher, for example, for me, the easiest way to translate my science into the market has been to license it to large companies. And I really I wonder if I had different support, my research could have led to something much, much bigger.
Yeah, very good. So, in terms of awareness, Heidi, it's our target group for sure is the entrepreneurs, but also the VC guys. So, how we can make these guys aware to contribute to the EIC, and what do you think the EIC has really to foster here?
It's a broader question, not only about the VC guys. Definitely, we have to understand first, if there is a very good innovator, very good startup, why the private money does not go into that. So that the communication is essential to understand that. What is the lack of funding from the VC side? As Yusuf said, that in one stage there will be a lot of money. If there is some traction already, then everybody wants to get in. How to secure that there is a very solid communication between the parties. If we say that we want to put the entrepreneur, the innovator, into the center of that program, then we have to speak the language that the innovators, the entrepreneurs understand. So it has to be very efficient, it has to be smooth, it has to be understood. But we can't really forget about the other stakeholders. And I wouldn't say that the innovation comes from the universities only. The innovation can come from anywhere, but the universities have to understand it, and it has to be also spoken in their language. But also the national agencies has to be aware, and the member states have to feel that that is not the European program, but that is our program. That is basically the funding that is available for our innovators, our entrepreneurs, our startups. And then the VC people would step in and say, yes, we can help with that and this, and even more, if we don't want the program to crowd out the private funding, we have to be in dialogue all the time. And VC guys, we VC guys and girls, we are very pragmatic in these terms. Definitely the VCs, they are like the publishing houses that publish the companies, the startups. All VC funds, as institutional funds, they have their own strategies. Even if I, as a person, as an investor, like that specific entrepreneur, that inventor, that technology, that product, I may not be able to invest into that because the timing is not right, the stage is not right, the scale is not right, and so on. There are so many conditions that actually define the investment strategy by certain VC funds. But there are different layers of VC investors, and we have to communicate with all of them, with those that do the seed stage, that do the pre-A, that do the A, and I believe that if you are already reached the B round, then there's no problem anymore, because the inefficiency and the deficit of funding is pre-A and A round, basically.
Okay. Thank you very much. So now we have the S and the T. So, and we want to speed up because we want to open the floor as well for you guys. So, Yusuf, scaling. I think you're the expert on scaling. How we can support the scaling from the EIC part?
Yeah, I don't know if I will be an expert, but yeah. I did it once, and I'm trying to do it now with other companies I invested in. Scaling is a mindset as well. So I do speak with a lot of founders of the company, and if I will ask them, where would you like to be in 5 years? Most of the time, the answer is very limited. So in 1 year, they will sell, let's say, for 1 million, and in 5 years, they would like to sell for 10 million. And it's incredible. At this moment, you are not selling nothing. You are selling nothing. In 1 year, you would like to sell 1 million, and in 5 years, just the 5 million. So it is a mindset. Once you can dream it, you will start doing it. And scaling on, that's maybe, too soft, but it starts all with that. The second one is like you need really to create a very strong team to scale. Because once you will scale, you will feel the organization is shaking of stress. So the team and the founders teams, they need to know each other very strongly, and they need to be able to handle the crises which will come. I had a lot of crises in the last 10 years in the many companies, and each phase in the scaling, you will have their own difficulties. Last one is, which is actually quite important for you as well. Once you will scale, you will need new technologies.
Yeah.
Because with your current technology, in about 5 years, once you will have the cash, will be all dated already.
Yeah.
So keep yourself connected with the universities is very, very crucial. So, and so you will get the next S curve.
Thank you very much. So the T, the talent, the entrepreneur, Mark, how we can take the entrepreneur into this hotspot of the EIC? How we can do that?
So I think there are two things we can do. First of all, we can make sure that they're involved. We can make sure that they and other professionals like the venture capital community are involved in assessing the programs. And then I think we need to be very slick in terms of our operations. You know, we will have very, very, very serious reviews of the pilots. Everything will be looked at critically, and it will be done transparently. And I am sure that some things will not work, and if they don't, we'll fix them. I mean, that's got to be the mindset. And I think then it's important to have speed. It's important to have scrutiny. So, you know, people will be interviewed. You won't be writing a program. It'll be like a pitching where you will pitch the people that you're pitching to. You should respect. In other words, that they will be serial entrepreneurs or VCs, that you will get good feedback, that we will be able really to have an entrepreneurial friendly environment where people will feel that they have been properly assessed, that they've been assessed quickly and appropriately, and if they have not got the funding, which is going to happen to a lot of people, they've got feedback and they kind of respect the process and they can come back again. So I think, you know, talent is very important. If we do that, we'll then bring on other generations of entrepreneurs. And we will need to work with all of those programs, both nationally and at European level, that are involved in educating people about entrepreneurship. There are a number of those from the EIT, from national programs that are about educating entrepreneurs. And we want to work with those people to bring them along. So I think all of those things are important. But there is a responsibility on us to operate in a very professional, efficient way, and also to be very transparent about the pilot. We have an opportunity in transitioning from the existing programs, and we intend to leave no stone unturned in looking at how we can learn to get the very best program for Horizon Europe.
Valeria, there's a big bang in your lab. Scientists to discover, wow, a great technology. How to make these guys now going for a patent instead of publishing in Nature or Science paper? And how really to make these guys going ahead in founding a company and moving into innovation?
It's not about either or. It's to do both things. Both things are doable. Actually, all my impact publications have had a patent filed prior publication. This is possible, and it's indeed very necessary. Yep. We were taken by surprise at the very, very first Nature paper I published back in 2007. Then we learned from that, because actually we discovered, like, oh, hang on, it's possible to do both things. And it's very, very important. This is something that scientists at first might not be acquainted with. They don't know much this possibility. This is very, very important. I've had luck to be educated in that way. Excellence in fundamental science and excellence in being high throughput in research, being a good academic and a recognized high-level academic doesn't necessarily mean that you have to put things aside. You can work with industry, you can deliver with and for industry, you can work at a pace that is compatible with industry. This is not either or. You can do these things. There are loads of things there in support. And another thing, you can also work with industry and at the base of industry and publish with industry. This is also possible, because a lot of industries would actually just simply ask you to share the manuscript with them beforehand so that they can approve, and some sensitive information might be either disclosed or not. They can have the choice. But publishing with industry is indeed possible, and yeah.
Yeah, very good news for all scientists. How is this possible? Yusuf, building a team, I think we know it's really important to work in the team and also maybe to do hard decisions sometimes. So how the EIC can contribute to the leadership, how we can really guide the young entrepreneurs into forming a team and to lead.
It will be great if we will show the cases where it's successful. So inspiring the people by storytelling. And in the United States, it's very, very common to see a lot of successful entrepreneurs, but also entrepreneurs which didn't succeed. So to inspire the people how you could do it in the right way and how you could do it also in a wrong way. And I think that will be also part of the AIC, to promote entrepreneurs and to promote innovators and their successful stories.
Very good. Heidi, failures. So if an entrepreneur fails, what shall we do? What shall the AIC do? Accept failures, learn from failures, or what to do here?
I love those efforts like funding, funds, fools, friends, effort, failure, fuck-ups. So assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. So, and if we know that, I would first pose a question. Please raise your hands. Who are the founders, the entrepreneurs in the audience? Please raise your hand. How many entrepreneurs do we have? Yes, at least a couple one. And you too. Very good. So, with failures, I think it's really important to be transparent so that if you have failed, if you have fucked up, it has to be accepted. In Europe, we have a lot less tolerance for failures than in the States, for example. In the States, they are absolutely great in telling the stories, but also sharing the experience of failing and sharing what they have learned from that failing. And there's one more thing with the EIC. We had a long discussion yesterday, and we somehow feel that in the advisory board, at least, we want to be like more of a startup style with that innovation council, not to be that like bureaucratic style. And then what do the founders, what do the entrepreneurs do when they test the new products and services? They go and ask from their clients, from their potential customers, to understand whether that is an assumption or whether that is the true problem that they are solving. You go to the market, you try to understand whether you are solving a problem or you just assuming that there is a problem. I think that is very important for us also to go and ask from the innovators, from the entrepreneurs, what do you want that program to be? If you have got the funding from the program and you see that you are not reaching the point, can you stop it? Can you do a pivot? Can you turn it around somehow? Can we accept a failure? I think that one of the biggest failures of the program probably would be that we have reached like 100% of successful cases, and nobody talks about the mistakes made and about the failures.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so important to really be conscious about and work with that. And we had also DARPA funding, and we were working with DARPA for a couple of years, a lot of money, and the officer was stressing on failures always. So we had to talk about 45 minutes on failures, what not really went well, and only 15 minutes on successes. Why? Because he wanted to stretch this technology to the edges. Because if you go to the next step, you have to put more money, especially in biotech. You have to start clinical trials, 1, 2, 3, more and more patients. And if you're not really stressed your technology at the beginning, you're prone to fail in the end and lose a lot of money. So therefore, it's really important that entrepreneurs are really bold enough to stress technologies and talk about failures, and that we have this culture also implemented in the EIC. So let's open the floor. Ready to receive your questions directly. Ask the panel members here and tell who you are as well. So there's a hand here. Yeah. There's a mic here. There's a mic coming.
There's a couple
Here?
over there. Yep.
Yep.
Thanks very much. Craig Nicholson from Research Europe. My question's a bit about the broader politics. The ERC, with its excellence focus, has kind of led to a geographical kind of concentration of excellence, which makes some people unhappy and has kind of led to this widening funds, and now there's going to be a tripling of the widening funds for Horizon Europe. So my question is, could you foresee the EIC with its excellence kind of contributing to those broader political concerns, and might we need innovation-focused widening funds as a kind of compensation?
I can take that. So I think that that's a very interesting question, and I don't think that that will happen. There is a huge untapped reserve of innovation in Europe, and the first untapped reserve is women. Okay, there are a lot fewer women entrepreneurs, and there are a lot fewer women venture capitalists, and that is an enormous opportunity for us. And the second untapped potential is that not every country in Europe looks like Silicon Valley. Thank God, because if it did, we would have a big problem to try to close the gap with the United States. So we have enormous potential. And the analogy isn't correct. There are no unicorn companies in my home country, Ireland. There are unicorn companies in Estonia, loads of them. So this perception that somehow or other we are going to, absolutely not. There are innovative people all over Europe. We want to see the best innovators. We want to see women innovators. We want to see innovators from wherever. And you know, my message back home in Ireland is, why are we not as good as Estonia?
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. John Bartlett from the Institute of Technology in Sligo in Ireland. Firstly, to welcome the EIC. It's a fantastic development, and to recognise the miracle with a very large M that it took to get it front-loaded. So well done on that, and we're looking forward to working with you. Question comes from an earlier session today on decarbonisation, where we heard that innovators will be the spearhead of the sustainability agenda.
Yeah.
We also heard many, many examples of fantastic products and processes from innovators, completely frustrated by all sorts of roadblocks, regulatory, political, finance, etc., etc., etc. Does the EIC see itself as an enabler or indeed a driver of the sustainability agenda? And if it does, how does it intend to prosecute that agenda?
Very good. Yusuf?
Want to take that from you?
Yusuf, you want to know?
I didn't hear the question quite good. I think you can.
So I'll say something and then I'll pass to Yusuf. Yusuf is basically in green technology. So I think we have to look very carefully at the societal challenges and at the deep tech challenges that are in Europe, and we need to catalyze both technologies and solutions. And in a simple answer to that question is, there's a lot of new technology and a lot of money to be made in addressing a societal good called climate change. And we need to find a way of catalyzing that. And I know, Yusuf, in your company with Algae and so on, you've been doing that. So maybe I should hand over to the expert.
Yeah. I think the global change and the SDGs for entrepreneur point of view, it's market chances. So I'm also the chairman of Green Scale-Ups organization, which we support startups to go to the next phase as scaling, but in a sustainable, with sustainable business models. And what we will try to do is we will try to figure out which key technologies will be interesting for the climate change. And we are going to support these innovators in a different way than you will do it in an IT company. For example, launching customer for this kind of technologies is extremely important. And I'm not talking about launching customer in a small scale. Every time you need to double the size of the launching customer to succeed on the long term on climate change challenges.
Okay. More questions? Okay. Yeah, in the back here. Stand up? Yeah. Actually, we can also, okay, you're, okay, Mike is coming.
Thanks. Vincenzo Palermo from the Graphene Flagship. A problem that we have when pushing for innovation is how to select in investing in low-hanging fruits or long-term investment, higher risk. So if you develop a new app, maybe you need a very small amount of funding and time. If you develop a new drug or a chemical production, you need massive investment and maybe 5 or 10 years.
Yes.
In this IC, how do you think you will distribute your efforts between, let's say, short-term projects and more long-term investment, and that maybe will show results in 10 years' time or even more?
Heidi?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It is a tough area, so that definitely not all money is meant for all kind of innovations. So that if there is a time horizon of 20 years, there's always a question that how can it be split into smaller chunks? So I believe that there should be money for each stage. So if it's fundamental research still, there is a different pocket of funding for that. If it's implementation already, there should be a different pocket for that. But the private money will come in if they see already that it can be monetized in some way. So if we think from the EIC perspective, there are currently 2 pillars or 2 programs, sub-programs. It's Accelerator and Pathfinder. So that the one is the money that comes in a smaller amount, but comes with networking skills, door opening, everything that is needed also to understand that whether there can be a model how to monetize on that technology. And then there is the second pillar that when you have already something in place and you want to scale it up, if you start to scale it up, there should be also private money to step in. These cases are very individual. In some cases, there may be the private money that is risk-taking early enough that sees the opportunity and comes in earlier. And in some cases, the private money would come in only if there is an additional catalyzing money from the public sector. So there is no one direct answer that fits all the problems. There is no one solution for that.
Okay. Okay. I think you wanted to have a question, yeah.
Yes, hello. I'm the CEO, Mattia Foschi, my name. I'm the CEO of a startup that's operating in the data market and trying to disrupt the data market to an extent, an area where Europe isn't really very competitive. My question is how do you connect with startups? Because if you look at ERC, it's clearly easier in the sense that there are universities, established institutions to work with, but startups are everywhere. They're very small actors,
Yep.
and most importantly, the challenging stage for them is when they are really tiny, when they might have an idea, they might have some technology, but really they aren't market ready yet. Yeah. So when I look at funding opportunities in Europe, I see very large pots of money, and either you're partnering with a university or you're already an SME with a large budget that you can afford to apply for that. But how do you connect with those startups that are in an early stage and need that support to become market ready or to scale to the extent they can apply for the larger funds?
Mark?
So I think that's a really excellent question. We have a job of work to do that. So I'm not pretending at all that this is done at the present time. It's not. So what we have to do is we have to link up with national networks. We have to link up with some of the networks that are around that are not national. Slush, for example, in Finland is not national. It's quite international. And really, we need to become known as a place that people can come to for funding. So there is a branding message to go out there, and part of that has got to be the delivery of the programs. Part of that has got to be us communicating better. But it's working with the national networks, working with the existing national and international linkages of entrepreneurs, and then becoming a natural place for the entrepreneur to come. And I'm well aware of the fact that many entrepreneurs around Europe will not know what the EIC is about. So we have a job of work to do.
Yeah.
But I do believe also as an entrepreneur and innovator also, you need to promote yourself.
Yep.
You need to promote your business. That's why you are an entrepreneur. So it's a job from both sides.
Yep.
May I comment on that? Regarding the startups trying to seek for the funding, I would say that the best source of money are the customers. So that if you can show that there is the relevance of your solution to any problem of a potential customer, then the money will love you. Basically, it means that if you can solve a true problem, the private money will hop on, and we are talking here about the scaling the startups that otherwise will remain too small. I have had plenty of cases that the founders have declined the VC money because they have actually reached the grant money to help them to take their technology to the next level, and then they'll take the VC money only if they see that that will work for sure.
Yusuf.
Yeah, but it's not always the case. So if you are in the hardware business, you will need some good money to start your own first pilot and launching customers. So I do agree with you. You need to discuss it, take the customer with you, and find the money. That's the best way to finance the first pilot. But it is crucial to get to the customer and to let the customer also pay for it. It will be even better.
Even if you have a hardware case, you can still show whether there is a need or there is not the need. So that if you can actually show the customer's interest, then the money will come.
Right.
And every case is individual, and definitely for hardware startups, the prototyping is much more expensive and time lengthy also. I agree.
Yeah. Valeria, you want to say something?
I think it's all about building a business case and the relevance of what you're doing, your product or your goal is. I thought it's all about that. And it's not true, it's not entirely true that if you are not in a university, you are out of the business there. Because often I think it's actually, the truth is also the opposite.
Right.
If you are in the university, you actually are not born with that mentality to go out there and make yourself exposed. You are in a comfort zone. So it's not always that easy to make,
Right. So I think we many questions, but I think we have to end the sessions in time, also to get you lunch here. The last thing, I think, before we close the session, it's very important again. So Niklas was selecting catapult your dreams, so flying high, and there I think there needs a lot of passion. And I think we have to create all together the passion in Europe that we want to make it happen, that it's really fun to do that. There's no push, no pull. Really, people want to do that. People see really in their lives a chance to build their own business, to build on their skills, to work on their strength, and they enjoy it. So being an entrepreneur can be very hard, but it can be very joyful, especially if you can achieve step by step. You can be very proud to see things are happening, and you can be very proud to work in a team and see really that you can inspire your coworkers to make things happen. So I think this is the best feeling you can get in your life. I'm quite sure about that. So we have to really inspire the people. So catapult your dreams. And now the last question to this great panel. You're sleeping at night, you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning in 5 years from now. So, and you turn on the radio, and there will be the news at 7 o'clock in the morning. So what are the news? What do you want to hear in the news first as a headline? I think it's a kind of difficult question, therefore I don't want to spot of you who's ready to answer this.
So I'll wake up in the morning, as you just said, and I want to hear in the news that the United States and Asia have launched a major initiative to catch up on Europe in deep tech. That's success.
Valeria.
Absolutely. I think the biggest news would be EU leading, EU innovation leading, and with big numbers of job creation, and where we are not the followers, we are the leaders.
Yusuf.
Can I wake up at 9? Then I will dream it much better. I hope to hear the EIC will get 500 billion in investment from the EU because of extreme successful rates. That will be great news.
I hope that I'll wake up and hear there is still peace in the world, and that with the help of the European innovation money, we have been able to solve at least some of the global problems. Because if we don't get into those global problems, Europe itself solo does not really matter. So I hope that we'll have the joint effort in order to solve some of the really burning global problems that cannot be solved only in Europe.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for the great questions. And I think you will be around for maybe more questions. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you. Good. Well done. Good.